The happiness trap, in my opinion, perhaps the greatest of all time. The best self-help book that I've come across. Now, what could possibly make it the greatest self-help book of all time? Well, there's a number of things. One, this book is absolutely jam-packed, full, not of fluff, not of meaningless stories. It gets to the point. It's got absolutely packed full of value, lots of strategies, lots of approaches to improving well-being, yes, but also improving our effectiveness at doing what matters and building resilience too. Now, that's number one. The second reason why I love this book is the strategies that are in it. They're evidence-based. It's not just goodwill and wishful thinking. This is evidence-based. There are over 3,000, count them, 3,000 studies demonstrating that the principles in this book work. Now, this book is a book written for the public by Russ Harris, and he's done a wonderful job of explaining what these principles are and how to apply them to our own lives. He didn't invent them. He didn't come up with them. He's been absolutely extraordinary, though, at teaching people how to apply them to their own lives. I'll say it now, but I'll say it at the end. Everybody ought to have a copy of this book. Everyone. And a real copy. Not one of those digital copies, but a real one. The last reason why I absolutely love this approach to performance, well-being, resilience, is that it's not just for feeling good in general life. It's really relevant to workplaces. So there have been studies performed in workplaces when you teach leaders, team leaders, senior executives, Olympic athletes, elite warriors, Navy SEAL units, people in schools, in hospitals, in all sorts of work domains. People improve their performance. They enjoy themselves more and they do better work. So that's why I like it, because I run training programs in organizations to help people to meet their challenges in workplaces more effectively. But let's move on. Perhaps I should just introduce you briefly to Russ. Let's see if Russ will join us here today. There he is. See, Russ is another Englishman, I might mention, but resident here in Australia. Lucky us to have Russ here in Australia, where we can see his workshops and attend his talks and get all that Russy goodness. Okay, let's move on. Now, I'd like to make a commitment here, a commitment. There's so much in this book, I promise not to do it justice. I couldn't be doing it justice in 30 minutes. That's too much to ask. But I am going to extract 10 big ideas, 10 really important ideas from the book and share them with you. At the end, as always, I'll be asking you which of the ideas resonates most with you. So let's get going. Let's start off with the happiness trap itself. What's Russ on about? Happiness trap? It's not a trap, is it? Well, unfortunately, most of us have bought into some really unhelpful ideas about what happiness is, when we should experience it, and how to achieve it. There are a number of myths which are going around. I wonder if you can recognize any of these. The first myth is that happiness, well, it's a natural state. It's our natural state. We ought to feel happy. That it says, at your core, you're a happy being. Well, happiness is one of your natural states, but it's only one. There are many other very natural states. Try being angry, frustrated, overwhelmed, disappointed, hurt. Plenty of other rather uncomfortable experiences, which are all natural states. But for some reason, the prevailing talk out there is, no, you ought to be happy. Look at everything you've got. You really should be a happy person. No, some of the time, yes, but not all of the time. In addition, we're told if you're not happy right now, well, there's something wrong. You're broken, you're defective. Now, you probably suspected that anyway, but it turns out we are not broken if we're not perpetually happy. You can't be. Our inner experience is a bit like the weather. Changeable. Yeah, there might be some sunny periods, not so many these days, but there might be some. But the wind changes direction. Yeah, it rains, it gets foggy, floods even, all sorts of strange things happening out in the outside world and in the inside world. That's normal. Unfortunately, when we look out at other people, we can't see that. Everyone else, have you noticed? They seem to have it all together. They seem to be, cheerful and positive. We can't see, of course, what's going on in the inside. Much more likely that they're just as worried, and they're looking back at their past mistakes and regretting them and rehashing stuff they did in the past, just like you do. Next myth that we have bought into. We've been told you ought to be able to control your thoughts and feelings. So from an early age, we've been taught to cheer up. Yeah, like you can just respond to that. Cheer up. Don't worry, be happy. One of my favorites is get a grip. Yeah, get a grip. Now, we do all have some influence. Yeah, we've got some influence over our thoughts and feelings, but it's just influence. We do not have control. It's not easy to control our thoughts and feelings. Now, the problem is with these myths is if you do buy into them, then you can end up pursuing some really unsuccessful, ineffective ways to improve your well-being, which can actually make things worse. That's the happiness trap. If we try to control our feelings, make sure that we're happy and insist, I've got to be continually happy or there's something wrong, then that's a trap and we don't want that. So in the book, Russ introduces us to the choice point. Now, what he says is, look, throughout our daily lives, we are going to be confronted with multiple choices to make. And it could be about what we're going to eat, what we're going to say to someone, are we going to begin a piece of work, how will we do it? Multiple choices. And at each of these choices, we can either make a decision that will take us towards the life that we want, or make a decision that inadvertently will take us away from the life we want. We might not even really make a decision. We'll just be on autopilot. So here's what it looks like. We're either going to move towards the life we want or away from the life we want. Now, you may be thinking, well, surely, wouldn't everyone just choose to why wouldn't you choose to move towards, always to move towards the life you want? Well, the problem is, and I'm sure you've experienced this in life, that there are times that when you meet a challenge of some sort, and it could be a challenge in a relationship, a challenge in taking care of your health, doing exercise, a food challenge. By that, what I mean, what do I eat? Shall I have some of this or shall I have some of that? Look, difficult thoughts and feelings will bubble up. Sometimes these thoughts and feelings can wash us away. They can wash us away. And in the book, we're introduced to the term being hooked. It's almost as though a difficult thought or feeling pulls us away from the life we really want to lead. And this is normal. This is natural. It's just what happens to human beings. Sometimes difficult thoughts and feelings are almost like they're in control. We believe them, and they dictate, in a sense, they dictate what we do next. Our challenge, should you choose to accept it, the challenge is to unhook, to find a way of reducing the influence of difficult thoughts and feelings, and then intentionally, consciously choosing to take an action that is aligned with being the kind of person you'd really like to be. So can I just ask you in the chat now, there are certain things I'm sure that you would like to do in your daily life to take you towards the life you really want. And it could be, in the health domain, it might be doing exercise, or perhaps there's some challenging work. I'd like to know, what are some of the behaviors that you would like to do more of if you could? And perhaps you could pop this in the chat. What kind of things would you like to do more of in your daily life if you could? Now, while I'm waiting for the comments to come through, I'll admit I really need to move more. I spend too much time sitting down all day. Should not be doing that. I ought to be moving more. I could also do with making some better food choices, a few less carbs. And look, we've got that. For some people, it may be being brave enough to set up your own business. Wonderful, fantastic. And that requires courage, doesn't it? Absolutely. Ingo, more listening with curiosity and non-judgment. Now, that requires intentionality, doesn't it? To really be present, to really pay attention. Rob, you're like me. Physical exercise. We've got to somehow find a way to choose, haven't we, Rob? To choose to weave it into our days. And yeah, Heidi, I'm with you. More short walks during the day. Yeah, we need to get out. We need to move. It'll freshen us up too. Now, the reality is we don't do as much of these things as we'd like. We say we'd like to do them. We might say at the start of the day, oh, I'm definitely going to be doing that today. But we get pulled away. We find ourselves doing other things. This choice point works, let me say up front, when we're honest with ourselves. When we're honest with ourselves about the ways we sometimes unhelpfully do things which take us off course. So I'd like to ask you, what are some of the things, not all the time, but occasionally you might do that doesn't take you in the direction you want? May I put up my hand first? I have a weakness, certainly, for the sea salt flavored deli chips. You know, those family bags. No one should ever have a bag that big in the home. I do, and if I do, it's always a mistake. It's always a mistake. I'll crunch my way through them. And look, wonderful comment here. Look, sometimes we focus too much on work. We get too absorbed in work. So there's times those things are exactly what we want to do. Sometimes these moves, the same actions can take us away from being the kind of people that we'd really like to be. I see this comment from, it's Beata. Beata, lovely to see you here. To be more consistent with following up leads for your business. That's what you'd like to do more of. And in the meantime, you're doing something else. Of course. So in this choice point exercise, what we're doing is being honest with ourselves about the kind of things we're doing which are less helpful. Let's move on. So the choice point, the whole book, really, the entire book is about getting better at making choices that are aligned with being the kind of people we'd like to be. The next point is about redefining success. Now, Russ says, look, a lot of us focus very, very heavily on outcome goals. Outcome goals. When we focus on an outcome goal, what we're saying is, oh, I'll be happy when I get the promotion, I get my degree, I get a home, I start a relationship, begin a family, win some kind of race. Now, these outcome goals are important, but if we focus too much on waiting until, then we can spend most of our lives kind of discontented. And the sad truth is, achieving goals, lovely though it is, it doesn't make us feel as good as perhaps we think it's going to make us feel for as long as we think it's going to make us feel. So goals, these outcome goals, we can think of them as being the destination we're traveling towards. And yeah, we should have worthwhile destinations to travel towards. Good. But what we need to do also, Russ says, is focus on the journey towards the destination. We should be taking actions that are aligned with what's important to us, also known as values. Now, I know we've got some coaches on the line today. Coaches, you may know values as strengths. So the values that we're good at, we call strengths. But sometimes we have aspirational strengths, don't we? There's things we'd like to get better at. We're not so good yet. They're values too. They're things that we would value being if we possibly could. So my question to all of you is, if you could, what kind of qualities would you like to demonstrate in your day today? Imagine you could architect your perfect day. And you can. Imagine you're going to architect your perfect day. What sort of qualities would you like to demonstrate through the actions that you take? I'm having a look at that little list. This is just a small list. But let's see. I certainly want to have fun. I intend to have fun giving this talk, for example. Some self-care later on in the day. What else? What might you like to prioritize if you're going to have a really successful day? So many different options. Actually, Ingo, earlier on, you mentioned being curious. There's a quality. And being impactful, having impact. Yeah, lovely. And if, Birte, you were to have impact, what kind of qualities would you need to have more impact? What kind of personal qualities would you need to express? So we've got Tiffany's mentioning that she'd like to demonstrate the qualities of being calm, focused, empathic, and being happy. Terrific. When we intentionally decide how we're going to show up in the day, we're much more likely to be able to do that and honestly get to the end of the day and look back and say, yes, that was a good day. So we're not waiting till we achieve some goal off in the future. Values are something that we can experience right now. Georgia, you're mentioning you'd like to be demonstrating the qualities of learning, being compassionate, and being creative. We can often put the word being in front of these values. Really important point. If we're going to have great lives that we feel rich and meaningful and successful, we need to decide consciously, intentionally, deliberately, how are we going to show up? And so there's a big section in the Happiness Trap on helping you to decide your own values. We've got one last little set here from Heidi. Heidi, you'd like to, a good day for you is being non-judgmental, empathic, and patient. There's a wonderful value that perhaps I could do with practicing too, being patient. And Rob, you've shared lots of wonderful things there, using the brief bullseye together, setting specific goals and behaviors with purpose in action. On this wonderful, comprehensive description of how to craft a day that's really well aligned, an authentic day. Okay, let's move on. Now, next idea from the book. Russ says, no, you know what? Difficult thoughts and feelings, which are going to come up if you've challenged, they are not the problem. Now, the society says you shouldn't be having negative thoughts and feelings. Stop it. Stop that. Don't think negative thoughts. Instead, you need to change them. You need to switch them from being automatic negative thoughts to positive, energizing or empowering thoughts. Now, if you can, great, do it. And there are occasions when we can. However, I put it to you that everything worthwhile in life, everything is going to come along with difficult thoughts and feelings. If it matters, and perhaps it's applying for a new job, asking someone out on a date, starting a business, all of these things are daunting and intimidating. And the more you care about them, the more intimidating they will be. Of course, there are going to be uncomfortable thoughts and feelings crop up, and you're not going to be able to get rid of them completely. We can't get rid of them, but maybe we can manage them. And that's the objective. The expression for being less influenced by difficult thoughts and feelings is getting unhooked. And the book is packed full of strategies for reducing the influence, for changing our relationship with the inevitable difficult thoughts and feelings. Here are just three ways that we can get a bit of distance, a bit of healthy psychological distance from what sometimes crops up on the inside. The first, that's my favorite, is when you recognize an unhelpful thought. And there are so many unhelpful thoughts. Perhaps the I'm not good enough thought, no one will ever like this thought, no one will ever love me thought, who am I to do this thought. All sorts of disempowering thoughts sometimes bubble up. What we need to get better at is noticing that we're having it, and then putting that phrase in front of the disempowering thought. So, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. I'm having the thought that no one will like it. I'm having the thought that this will never work out well. Just putting that phrase in front acknowledges honestly that you're having the thought, but doesn't try to get rid of it. We're just acknowledging it, and it just reduces its influence a little bit. Next on getting unhooked strategy is to name the process. Name what's going on. There's worrying. There's rehashing the past. There's fretting about the future. You can just name what's going on. The strange thing is when we name what's going on, we can tame what's going on. It's still kind of there, but we're not dominated by it. Next thing is to name the story. There's the I should never have made that investment story, or there's the this will never work out story. The regrettable truth is most of the thoughts we have in our head are not fresh and new. They're old friends, old friends, and they just crop up again and again. We've got a quick note there from Rob recommending the audiobook version of The Happiness Trap. Great. Look, get it in any format you can. Next idea from The Happiness Trap is to tame urges. Now, let's face it, all of us at times are going to experience urges to do things which are not going to take us in the direction that we really want to go. Urges to eat. Anyone else? Urges to drink. Urges to do something tomorrow rather than do it today. All sorts of urges. And Russ gives us a strategy for managing urges. And here it is. It's the TAME. Brilliant. The TAME strategy. First, we need to notice that the urge has actually bubbled up. It might even have a shape. You might feel it in your throat or in your chest, but you take note. There it is. The A is to allow it to be there. Just is not try to get rid of it. I've got to get rid of this urge, but actually to allow it to be there, to make room in a sense. Yeah, okay, there's space there. And then you expand your awareness. There isn't just the urge. There's also your whole body, and there's also the whole world. These skills are things that need to be practiced. I can read them out, but it's not the reading them out that works. It's the practice. And something that Russ recommends again and again and again in the book is practice. Give it a shot. And the book is full of exercises to practice. Next stop, dropping anchor. So from time to time, all of us will experience, let's call them emotional storms, really strong feelings of hurt, overwhelm, anger, or all sorts of things. Now, if you were in a boat and there was a storm, and perhaps sailors can correct me, but I think when things are really rough, to stabilize the boat, you drop anchor. The storm does not go away. That's not what anchors are for. They don't frighten storms, but it does stabilize the boat. There's a way of dropping anchor in our minds, and it's the ACE method. Again, where we acknowledge what's going on. We might name it. Then we get grounded. We do it by connecting with our body, by just feeling that we are in a body. Now, you could do it also just by kind of pushing your fingertips together and just feeling the pressure, or you might push your feet into the floor, but you just allow yourself to sense being in a body. Do it any way you like. And the E is then to engage in what you're doing, to pay attention to what you're doing. This ACE, you can do, the plan is to do these three at the same time. These are skills, but these are skills that work. Have a look at the book. Next, really core, some of you have mentioned this already, the importance of being present. Remember that choice point where we can make a choice to go one way or the other? We need to be present to notice when we're at the choice point. It's a bit like driving a car somewhere. You need to notice the exits. It's quite important to notice the exit. It's only when you notice the exit that you can take the exit. Being present is a skill. It's something you can do. It's a skill we can all develop. Developing our awareness, how we use our attention, getting out of our heads where we're in a kind of virtual reality, thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow or rehashing what we did in the past, and come to this moment. This moment is where our lives are happening after all. And we have to be present if we want to intentionally make courageous choices. That's being present. Next step, Russ says you can't just hope that you're going to be taking courageous steps, that you're going to be meeting challenges well. Don't hope, plan. And he provides a really nice worksheet for this. I love the order in which he requests information. He says, 1, pick your life domain. Is it about getting healthier? Is it getting better relationships? Is it about developing your career? You pick the domain, the area. 2, what are your values in that domain? In other words, what's important to you about self-care? What's important to you about having a rewarding profession? What kind of individual do you want to be? If you could be the professional you'd like to be, what kind of qualities would you like to express? If you're in a relationship, if that was the domain, what kind of qualities do you aspire to express more often? So we write down our values. Then yes, we do pick a goal, something we want to move towards, something we'd like to make happen. And then importantly, we decide what kind of things are we going to need to do to realize that goal. What, where, and when. And this is the important part. If this is a meaningful challenge, a meaningful goal, there will be obstacles, internal obstacles. There'll be difficult thoughts and feelings. And we want to try to predict what might show up. If we apply for those jobs, what thoughts and things might show up. If we begin a relationship, what difficult thoughts and feelings might show up. If we plan to go out for a walk, to eat more healthily, what might show up? And then this really important question, are you willing to use unhooking skills described in the book to do what matters and build the life you want? This strategy is requesting willingness, about being willing to do what matters, even when it's challenging. And that is courage. Courage is taking action even when it's uncomfortable. So that's the plan. There's one more thing. Number 10th item I'd like to share from the book. And it's this. If we're going to be doing new behaviors, doing things differently, well, new behaviors kind of need embedding. They need help. Anyone can do something differently for an afternoon. But if we want to do it on an ongoing basis, we're going to need some help. And Russ comes up with 7 R's. I've only got time to read them. We can't go through them all. But 7 ways that we can help embed new behaviors. Reminders, cues to do the thing. Keep records of the new behavior. Track progress. Give yourself rewards, even if it's just, yes, go me. Give yourself some kind of reward. If you can routinize it, that'll help. Making it more of a ritual, something you do at the same time, that'll help. Reflecting, thinking about it afterwards. Yeah, what went well? What will I need to do differently next time to be more successful? Restructuring the environment, that means just rearranging things to make it easy to be the kind of person you'd like to be. And utilizing relationships, maybe buddy up with someone or get a coach to help keep you accountable. Okay, we've gone through quite a lot of things, 10 things. Which of these 10 things do you think, if you were to take to heart, might make the biggest difference? We've got the idea that there just is a happiness trap. The fact of this choice point, keeping that front of mind. Yes, actually, the day is full of choices, and I need to make choices, not find myself on autopilot, trying to make myself happy now. Is it about redefining success, getting really clear about your values? Tell me in the chat which one of these is most important to you. Maybe you'd like to be more tolerant of difficult thoughts and feelings as they bubble up. Treat them more like adverts on Facebook to get rich quick or to lose weight now. You don't have to click them. Life can go on even with these unhelpful messages. Heidi, you're mentioning what you'd like to do is practice being present. Yes, great. That's being present later on, isn't it? Look, we've got dropping anchor, we've got taming urges. Maria, you're mentioning you'd like to plan. Yes, be more intentional about making your incremental steps. Great, incremental steps towards a goal. And Georgia, you're mentioning you'd like to be present too. People, I am aware that we are at the end of our time. Let me just say one more time. This book, everyone should have a copy. If you just don't have time to read a big book like that, may I mention that there's a little version of it. There's a little version. And look, it's full of cartoons. You can read this on the train trip to work. It's a quick thing. It's a fast way to get hold of the ideas. Finally, if you work in an organization and you'd like to help your leaders get more bolder, more courageous in connecting with people, in doing important work that matters, know that there is a training program to help people to develop these skills in the workplace. And it's proven to help people be more, improve their performance and build well-being and resilience. And get in touch with me if you. That's what I do. I help organizations build those skills so that they can be more effective. People, we're at the end of our time here. Thank you so much for your participation. I appreciate your presence. Have a wonderful day, and may it be values aligned, in which you're taking more and more decisions that move you towards the life that you really want for yourself.